The movie begins by showing a good-looking high school boy, Landon Carter, infiltrating a lake with his friends. He was among the most popular students at his school but often made trouble and got along with naughty students. That night, Landon and his friends intended to prank Clay, the boy who wanted to join their gang. They gave Clay the conditions to pass a test of courage to get him into their group. Clay would automatically enter their gang if he could pass the gut test well. However, if he failed, he had to stay away from them. Landon challenged Clay to climb a very high tower and jump from the top to plunge into the lake. Landon told Clay that he would jump with him. It turned out that he was only pretending to jump while Clay was plunging into the lake. But unexpectedly, Clay fell unconscious in the water. Everyone panicked, and the situation became more chaotic when police officers discovered their whereabouts and intended to arrest them. Landon and his friends decided to flee the place. Unfortunately, he couldn't escape the police chase because his car hit the fence and slipped into the river. Consequently, he was caught by police officers and had to be rushed to the hospital to treat his injured leg. The next day, Landon's mother, Cynthia, found out about the problem and immediately scolded Landon, which was very difficult to manage. Fed up with Landon's selfish attitude, Cynthia intended to call her ex-husband. She wanted to hand Landon over to him. She felt that she had failed to educate Landon and could no longer care for him, who continued to be troubled. But Landon begged her not to contact his father, who was currently married and starting a new life with someone else. On Sunday, Cynthia took Landon to church, hoping that he would turn out to be a better young man. At the church, Landon saw one of the choir girls, Jamie Elizabeth, secretly staring at him. Landon's ex-girlfriend, who happened to be there, also realized it. She was jealous and disliked Jamie, who secretly stole a glance at Landon. The next day, Landon and Belinda were hanging out with their friends at school. Belinda accidentally saw Jamie, whom she had met the other day. Seeing Jamie's old-fashioned and tacky appearance, Belinda tried to mock Jamie's appearance with a sarcastic joke. But Jamie, who was too innocent, took the mockery as a compliment. She thanked Belinda and returned the mockery with a smile. After Jamie walked away, Belinda and her friends, including Landon himself, began to laugh at Jamie's innocence and tacky grooming. That day, Landon was called into the principal's office to receive punishment for the trouble he had made. He was asked to clean up the school, give his classmates private lessons, and participate in musical plays held by the school. Landon did not want to do all these activities, but he was forced to do all those punishments so he would not be expelled. The principal also advised him to hang out with good students rather than make friends with punks who often put him in trouble. After school, Landon was mopping the school corridor. He bumped into Jamie, who was busy setting up the school play. Shortly after, Landon's friends came, and one of them interrupted Jamie, but she responded casually. After that, they approached Landon and invited him to go home together. He initially refused because he had to complete the assignments the principal gave, but his friends persuaded him by saying that the principal had left the office. Landon wanted to complete the task first, but he was worried about Jamie, who kept staring at him, so he decided to join his friends. Landon then went to drive Belinda home. Belinda had a chance to ask Landon to stop by for a moment, but he refused her invitation and reaffirmed that their relationship was over. Belinda was upset to hear that, and she immediately got out of Landon's car and walked home. At the end of the week, Landon was suddenly awakened by his mother. She asked him to leave for school immediately because he had a schedule to teach his junior, Lewis. Although Landon felt very lazy, he kept trying to teach him. But Lewis was frustrated by Landon's way of teaching and chose to leave the class. Jamie, who was also teaching the class, could see the look on Landon's face. He was upset and fed up with all the punishment he had to undergo. After school, Jamie approached Landon, sitting alone on the bus. She calmed Landon down. She was trying to give some feedback on how to teach private lessons well to him. But Landon did not respond well to Jamie's good intentions. He said she was just a nerd who always carried Bible books everywhere. Jamie became upset and asked Landon not to act as if he knew her well. However, Landon immediately denied it by saying he had known Jamie for a long time because they were always in the same school. He knew all about Jamie's habits, including the fact that she only had one sweater, which she always wore every time she went to school. Jamie unexpectedly seemed impressed by Landon's response. However, she asserted that she didn't care at all about what others thought of her life. The next day, Landon's friend, Eric, drove him to school to attend a drama rehearsal with the school's drama club. Unexpectedly, the school drama coach chose Jamie and Landon to play leading roles in the drama that would be performed at the school show later. After training, Eric was a little late to pick up Landon from school, so Landon was forced to come home with Jamie. It happened that their house was also one way. On the way home, Landon immediately bowed his body down when he saw his schoolmates on the side of the road. He didn't want his friends to discover he was hitchhiking in Jamie's car and coming home with her. Seeing Landon's strange behavior, Jamie just smiled without saying a word. With Eric's help, Landon tried memorizing the dialogue of the drama he had to play at the school performance. But Eric couldn't help Landon much. The lines in Landon's dialogue were too long, and he couldn't possibly memorize the dialogue in such a short time. Therefore, Landon met Jamie and asked her for help memorizing the drama dialogue. Jamie initially objected to helping him, but since she didn't want their play to fail, she was willing to help Landon on one condition. She warned him not to fall in love with her. Landon immediately agreed to the terms because he was sure he would never fall in love with Jamie. That afternoon before Landon came, Jamie's father, Sullivan, refused when he found out that Landon was coming to their house. As a police officer in the city, Sullivan discovered that Landon was a bad boy who was so troubled that he didn't want Landon to get close to his daughter. But Jamie convinced her father that Landon only stopped by to learn drama dialogue so their drama could run smoothly. Upon Landon's arrival at Jamie's, Landon was astonished that her house was full of statues of Jesus and the cross. After that, Jamie's father came to Landon's surprise and warned him not to mess with Jamie. The following night, Landon accidentally saw Jamie secretly enter the graveyard alone at night. The curious Landon followed her and discovered that she was building a telescope to see the constellations in the sky. Jamie said that one of her dreams before death was to see a rare constellation. Landon didn't seem interested in hearing Jamie's dream. However, a friendship between Jamie and Landon slowly began to establish, and the two became closer daily. Strangely, when they were at school, Landon pretended not to know Jamie and did not respond to her when she called him in front of his friends. Although slightly disappointed with Landon's attitude, Jamie kept quiet while smiling thinly before she finally left Landon. After Jamie walked away, his friends again made fun of Jamie's sweater. Landon could only pretend to be indifferent even though he felt very guilty. After school, Landon came to Jamie's house to ask her to do drama practice together, but Jamie refused because she was still offended by his previous attitude. Landon tried to make excuses by saying he purposely covered his friendship with her because he wanted to surprise his friends with his role in the drama. Landon could only leave Jamie's house with a feeling of annoyance while swearing to vent his frustration. Landon was forced to learn to memorize the dialogue alone and try hard so that he did not embarrass himself in the drama show. He began to pay serious attention to the school drama coach's direction while ensuring he did not disappoint anyone. As the day of the play arrived, Landon and Jamie finally performed their play very well in front of teachers and students. At the end of the drama, Landon and Jamie have to kiss each other, making Belinda jealous. Everyone seemed satisfied with Landon's performance in the drama, but Jamie's father seemed disappointed because Landon dared to kiss his daughter. On that occasion, Landon's father also watched the play and greeted his son because they had been apart for a long time. Landon seemed reluctant to meet his father and chose to leave him. He still felt hurt that his father had left his mother. The next day at lunchtime, Landon suddenly sat next to Jamie's table to enjoy lunch with her. But Jamie warned him to stay away because she was still unsure if Landon wanted to be friends with her. Seeing Jamie walking away, Landon tried to catch up with her, but she still ignored him. In the afternoon, Landon was relaxing with Eric, who was upset to see Landon start to change. He had never hung out with them again since Landon had known Jamie. Landon reasoned that he only wanted to change the atmosphere and did not want to do the same activities continuously. Eric did not believe that. He even said that Jamie was slowly starting to change Landon's personality, and Landon was still unaware of it. The next night, Landon came to Jamie's house and gave her a new sweater. When Jamie's father discovered it, he immediately warned his daughter not to get too close to Landon. Jamie's father wanted Jamie to be happy and have a normal life like the other girls, but he was worried that Landon was hurting her. The following day when Jamie came to school, Belinda was suddenly polite to Jamie and invited her to talk in the cafeteria. But after arriving at the cafeteria, it was finally revealed that Belinda and her friends just wanted to make fun of her. They were distributing Jamie's sexy pictures to all the students at their school. Seeing the students laughing at her loudly, Jamie felt humiliated and couldn't help crying anymore. She ran from the cafeteria and accidentally hit Landon, who had just arrived. When Landon discovered that his friend, Dean, had edited Jamie's picture and distributed it to all school students, he became furious and immediately beat him up. Landon couldn't care less if their friendship broke up and happily left the place with Jamie. After that, Landon drove Jamie, who was still in shock, back to her house. He then tried to ask her to go on a date, but Jamie refused because she was not the same as the other girls without further explanation to Landon. The next day, Landon asked Jamie's father for permission, and he promised to treat Jamie better. Given Landon's determination, Mr. Sullivan decided to give him a chance. The following night, Landon invited Jamie to dinner at a restaurant, and they danced together to some lovely music. They seemed to enjoy the night's date blissfully and share stories. Landon then expressed his feelings to Jamie. Strangely, she did not answer the expression of feelings conveyed by Landon. She reminded him again not to fall in love with her, as if she was hiding something from him. Since then, Landon and Jamie often spend time together and even go to school together to make Landon's friends feel upset. When her father found out that Jamie was coming home late at night, he got worried and asked Jamie to tell Landon the truth. The following night, while Jamie and Landon were watching the stars together, he asked what her other dreams were. Jamie said that she wanted to get married in the same church as the one where her parents got married. The next day, Cynthia asked about Landon's relationship with Jamie. Landon was frank that he had fallen in love with Jamie. He said Jamie was different from other girls. Even Jamie had encouraged him to continue his studies in medicine. That night when Landon went for a walk with Jamie, he asked about her study goal in college. With a slight gloom, Jamie replied that she would not be able to continue her study for personal reasons. When Landon asked her why she said that, Jamie had to tell the truth. She told him that she had leukemia. At first, Landon did not believe her because Jamie looked like a very healthy young girl. But she again convinced him and said she already had the disease 2 years ago. She deliberately hid the disease from people because she didn't want to be considered strange by others and wanted to live a normal life without people pitying her. Landon immediately went to his father's house, who was a doctor, and asked him to treat Jamie. But since he was a cardiologist, he couldn't do much to help Landon because he also didn't know the history of Jamie's disease. Landon, who was disappointed, rushed away and started crying all night while driving his car. The following day, Eric approached Landon alone on the lake shore and tried to ask him about his problem. Eric said that Landon's mother kept asking about him last night because he had not returned home since yesterday afternoon. But Landon said that he was fine and chose to hide his problem. After that, Landon went to Jamie's house and filled her terrace with some roses. Mr. Sullivan was astonished at it, trying to ask what he meant. Landon explained that he would never leave Jamie alone. The following day, Jamie came to Landon, who was fixing his car in the garage. She apologized to Landon because she didn't say it in the first place and made him feel very confused about the current situation. Landon wasn't mad at her, but he feared Jamie would have to face it alone. Hearing that, Jamie honestly said that even though she was afraid of death, she was more fearful of losing Landon. While crying, Jamie revealed that when she was with Landon, she always felt comfortable and happy. He wiped Jamie's tears and hugged her tightly, saying he would never leave her. The next day, Jamie suddenly woke up after hearing the sound of tools coming from her yard. When she looked out the window, the sound came from Landon, who was making a big telescope for Jamie. Her father then appeared behind her, asking about the source of the sound. When she turned around, Jamie, who looked very pale then, suddenly fell unconscious. Jamie was immediately rushed to the hospital, and Landon accompanied her. A few days later, after Jamie woke up, Landon smiled in relief and approached her. As a girl with a strong faith in God, Jamie began to think that God deliberately sent Landon into her life so she could accept her destiny. Landon could only smile, knowing Jamie thought of him as a guardian angel for her.
You're my angel.
The next day after Jamie got out of the hospital, Mr. Sullivan told Landon that Mr. Carter had helped pay for Jamie's treatment. Landon immediately ran to his father's house, and while crying, he thanked his father. Seeing him crying, he hugged Landon tightly to calm him. Since then, the relationship between Mr. Carter and Landon that was initially stretched slowly began to close, thanks to Jamie's presence in Landon's life. In the evening, while Landon was still busy working on the telescope project for Jamie, Mr. Sullivan came to help Landon, and gave him a few drinks. The following night, Landon invited Jamie to see the stars together after the telescope was done. She felt very happy because her dream of seeing stunning stars finally came true. Jamie's happiness grew when Landon decided to propose and asked her to marry him at the church she wanted. A few days later, Jamie and Landon's wedding was held at the church and witnessed by their friends and relatives. Unfortunately, Jamie couldn't last too long shortly after the wedding, and eventually, she had to leave Landon for good. 4 years after Jamie died, Landon, who had just graduated from high school, came to Mr. Sullivan's house to return Jamie's mother's book to him. He was very grateful to Landon for everything he did for Jamie, and he also felt proud that Landon kept his promise to Jamie by continuing his study in medicine. However, Landon still felt very sad because he couldn't give Jamie a miracle. Mr. Sullivan immediately denied it and said Landon was the best miracle in Jamie's life. The movie ends with a scene where Landon walks to see the sunset while thinking about Jamie, who has made his life more meaningful. The moral that can be learned from this movie is that life will be more precious when we know what we want and whom we love. Thus, we know the things we have to achieve.